The night was dark and heavy with silence. Deep in the southern mountains, a SEAL team moved carefully through the canyon floor, their boots pressing into the cold sand while the wind whispered across the high stone walls. The team of 8 men had been sent to recover intelligence from an enemy outpost. But what was supposed to be a quick operation had turned into something far worse, because now they were trapped, and the enemy knew exactly where they were. Radio contact had failed minutes earlier. At first they thought it was only bad reception. But then the static grew louder, and then there was nothing but silence. One soldier tapped the headset again and again, his voice sharp with fear. No reply, no command center, no backup. They were completely alone from the cliffs above. Flashes of fire cracked into the canyon. Enemy snipers were hidden in the rocks, their bullets pinning the SEALs down. The soldiers pressed themselves against the canyon wall, unable to move forward, unable to retreat, no escape route at all. The echo of each shot bounced from stone to stone, making it impossible to know the exact location of the shooters. And every second the circle grew tighter around Thema. Young soldier whispered desperately, his voice trembling as he reloaded his rifle with shaking hands. "We are not getting out of this alive." His words hit the team like a hammer, because deep down each of them had already felt the same thought growing inside. Their ammunition was running low, their position was weak, and the enemy had the high ground. Everything pointed to one ending, a final stand. The team leader tried to keep control, whispering commands through clenched teeth. "Cover left side, stay low, watch your angles." But his words were drowned out by the thunder of enemy fire. Dust fell from the cliffs as bullets tore into the rocks above their heads. One wrong movement and they would be gone then, in the middle of that chaos. A single rifle shot echoed through the night, sharp and different. It came from far away. Not from the canyon walls, not from the enemy lines, but from somewhere much farther, so far it almost felt unreal. The SEALs froze for a moment, confused. Then they heard the cry of an enemy sniper collapsing. A body falling from the rock silence fell for a heartbeat. Then another enemy gunner raised his weapon. But before he could fire, another shot rang out. Precise, cold, final. The second enemy sniper fell. And then a third one was struck down, as if invisible eyes had marked every target in the dark. The SEALs looked at one another, confusion written on every face. None of them had fired. None of them had moved from cover, so who was taking those shots? And how could anyone reach targets hidden at such impossible distances? Nobody had an answer. But one thing was clear, they were not completely alone anymore. Suddenly, through the static of their old earpiece, a voice crackled, quiet and steady. "Eyes on target, path is now open." It was a woman's voice, calm, almost too calm for the situation. The SEALs froze, their hearts racing. Who was she? How did she know their position? And why was she helping them? The leader pressed his finger to the headset, demanding an identity, but the voice gave none. Only silence followed. Then another sniper fell dead from the cliffs above, each shot clearing a path that seconds earlier had been blocked by death. The men pressed tighter against the canyon wall, adrenaline flooding their bodies. They had no idea if this unseen helper was real or only a trick of fate, yet the evidence was clear. Someone out there was watching them, guiding them, fighting for them from an impossible distance. Every fallen enemy proved it. Every perfect shot turned despair into a spark of hope. But hope came with fear too, because if one person could see them so clearly from so far away, then who else could? What kind of skill or weapon was behind these kills? And how long could it last before the enemy found this mysterious shooter and silenced her? The canyon was still alive with danger. Flashes of enemy fire continued from the east ridge, forcing the SEALs to crawl deeper into the shadows. They felt the cold earth against their hands and the crushing weight of the cliffs above. Their bodies screamed for rest, but their minds were sharp with a single thought. Someone unseen had shifted the balance tonight. Someone had turned certain death into a chance, however small, at survival. The young soldier who had whispered of dying looked up now with wide eyes, his face pale but alive with wonder. "Maybe we are not alone after all," he said softly, and in that moment the canyon seemed less like a grave and more like a battlefield where miracles could still happen. The team leader raised his rifle, glanced at his men, and for the first time since the ambush began, he saw belief return to their faces. Belief that they could fight another minute, another hour, long enough to make it out, all because somewhere in the mountains a hidden guardian had decided this fight was not over. Far away from the canyon, beyond the noise of rifles and the echo of fear, a woman sat alone in a dimly lit trailer, her face half lit by the glow of computer screens. Her name was Nadia Volkova, half German, half Russian, 28 years old, a soldier who had once walked among elite sharpshooters, but now left behind. Labeled as support staff, dismissed as background noise in a world that only respected visible combat, Nadia leaned forward in her chair, her brown hair tied back in a simple braid, her eyes fixed on a set of faint signals appearing on the edge of her old radar screen. Most officers ignored these flickers of static, calling them unreliable ghost traces, but Nadia never ignored them, because she had learned long ago that sometimes survival hides in the smallest details. Once she had been a sniper, Echo 7, a specialist who could strike from distances so far that enemies never even knew where death had come from. But a back injury during a mission had ended her career in the field. At least on paper, the command stripped her of combat duty, assigning her to a desk with maps, weather charts, and communication feeds. She had been told that her skills were no longer useful, that her role now was to track supply trucks and watch dots move across screens. Most soldiers at the base mocked her quietly, some louder than others, calling her a map reader, a failed sniper, a ghost who sat in air conditioning while real warriors bled outside. They laughed at the instruments on her desk, the strange modified devices she had built herself, wind meters, more sensitive than Army standard, pressure gauges that reacted to changes invisible to common tools, notebooks filled with hand-drawn maps and thousands of calculations. To them, it looked like obsession without purpose, but Nadia carried something the others did not see. Around her neck on a thin chain hung an empty brass casing, engraved with the words "never forgotten." It was from the final round she had fired. As an official sniper, the last time she had been Echo 7, that shot had saved lives. But the mission had also taken her closest partner, and the memory burned inside her like a silent flame. The casing was not decoration, it was a promise, a reminder that her skill was not gone, only waiting when the alarms at base shifted to routine silence. Nadia still remained at her desk, watching wind readings, studying terrain lines, building a picture in her mind of how the land spoke, how the air moved, how the mountains breathed. Every line in her notebook represented possibilities, escape routes, overwatch points, sniper angles that nobody else cared to consider. To her, this was not obsession. It was preparation for the moment when conventional orders failed, when lives depended on someone willing to see what others ignored that night. As SEAL Team 4 crawled in the canyon, those faint signals on her screen became clearer, distorted whispers of movement. Heavy jamming tried to bury the truth, but Nadia had trained herself to read between the lines, to pull meaning from broken fragments, and she saw it. She saw that the SEALs were surrounded, cut off, trapped without chance of rescue. Her heart tightened, because she knew that official command would never respond in time. They would dismiss the signals as noise. They would bury the warning under layers of doubt. And by the time the truth was confirmed, the SEALs would already be gone. Nadia rose from her chair, her back aching but her hands steady. She requested permission to activate an old Overwatch program known as Long Eye, a system that combined terrain mapping with extreme distance shooting. But the officer at the desk laughed. Long Eye was decommissioned. The gear scrapped, the project dead. Denied, he said flatly. Go back to your maps. But Nadia knew better. She had hidden pieces of that project long ago, refusing to let it die. In a forgotten depot at the edge of the base, she had kept her personal weapon alive, the rifle known only to her as the Raven, longer, heavier, built for calculations that most snipers would never attempt, its barrel engraved with a phrase she whispered in silence. Strike unseen, protect unknown. While others discarded history, she preserved it. Waiting for the night when it would matter again, she signed off her station quietly. No report filed, no words spoken, only the hum of screens left behind. Then she drove through the darkness in a maintenance truck, the stars above cold and distant, her mind repeating one thought: if not me, then no one. If not now, then never. Every mile brought her closer to the ridgeline she had marked weeks ago in her notebook. A place where the canyon opened just enough for a long shot to reach. A place where nobody expected an overwatch. A place chosen by patience and foresight hours. Passed like minutes, her breath fogged against the night as she unloaded her gear. Setting up with precision, every instrument aligned. Every gauge whispering to her. The wind was shifting west, the pressure falling. The canyon below alive with muzzle flashes. She could hear faint echoes of the fight, though it was miles away. Her fingers brushed the casing on her necklace, and she whispered to herself, "Tonight I will not fail." When she locked the Raven into position, the first target came into focus. A sniper crouched on a rock ledge, aiming down at the canyon floor, distance nearly 3 kilometers. A shot others would call impossible, but not to her. Not with her maps, not with her numbers, not with her promise. Her finger rested on the trigger, her eyes steady, and in that instant she became Echo 7 once more. Unseen by her enemies, forgotten by her allies, yet about to shift the fate of the war with a single round. The shot cracked across the mountains, a sound sharp and cold. The bullet slicing through layers of air, bending with wind. Writing the numbers Nadia had calculated again and again. In the canyon below, an enemy sniper jerked backward, his rifle clattering against stone, his body sliding into the shadows. The SEALs heard the collapse but could not see from where it came. Confusion rippled through them, because they knew no friendly sniper was anywhere near, and yet death had struck from the unseen sky. Before the shock settled, another round whispered into the night. This time finding a machine gun nest hidden on a high ridge. The heavy weapon that had kept the SEALs pinned down suddenly silenced. Sparks and screams mixing in the air. Then a third shot echoed and another enemy soldier fell, precise and final. As if invisible fingers were picking targets one by one. The canyon was still a prison, but now cracks of hope began to form in its walls. The SEAL team leader pressed himself against stone. His voice sharp over the radio. "Identify yourself. Who is firing?" The answer came not as a name but as a calm voice, steady and measured. "Eyes on target. Path is opening." The words gave no rank, no call sign, only certainty, and the team froze. Because the tone did not sound like desperation, it sounded like control. Like someone far above them had already seen the entire battlefield. Nadia adjusted her scope. The Raven rifle humming with quiet power as her instruments confirmed pressure and drift. She did not think about permission. She did not think about consequences. She thought only of the men below who would die if she hesitated. Her finger pressed. Her breathing slowed. Every trigger pull a promise kept to herself and to the ghost of her fallen partner. Her mind repeating the same vow. "Never again will I stay silent while lives can be saved." The SEALs moved carefully, crawling from shadow to shadow as her unseen shots cleared openings. Each time an enemy position rose against them, it fell seconds later. Confusion spread among the hostile fighters. They shouted in panic, trying to locate the source of the impossible fire. But the distance was too great, the angles too perfect. No muzzle flash revealed her, only silence after the strike. Silence. Broken by falling bodies, the young soldier who earlier had whispered of certain death, now looked at his comrades with wide eyes. Whispering again, but with a new tone. "Someone is watching us. Someone wants us to live." His words carried like a spark of belief. And belief in the canyon was more powerful than bullets, because it turned despair into movement. It gave the trapped Men courage to follow the unseen voice guiding them forward. Nadia shifted positions slowly, her injured back aching as she crawled to adjust her view. Every movement painful but necessary. She ignored the fire in her muscles, ignored the sweat stinging her eyes. She had waited months for this. Months of quiet calculation, months of mockery from others, months of preparing maps nobody respected. And now all of it came alive, every line, every number, every whispered test shot in forgotten training grounds. It all converged in this one night. The canyon floor glowed faintly under moonlight, shadows stretching long. Nadia's scope found a mortar crew adjusting tubes toward the trapped seals. She inhaled, held steady, exhaled, and the Raven spoke. The crew collapsed before the round could ever be fired. The team below never even knew how close death had been, but they felt the path open a little wider, and they moved with renewed speed. In the base, faraway officers still laughed at their screens, dismissing ghost signals, convinced the SEALs were lost. But Nadia was rewriting the story, stroke by stroke, one hidden shot at a time. She knew she could never claim this, never step forward to announce what she was doing, but recognition was never the reason. Saving them was reason enough, even if they never learned her name. The team leader pressed the radio again, his voice firm now. "We owe you, whoever you are. Guide us out." The calm reply came once more. "Move east 20 meters, hold for 7 seconds, then advance. Enemy shift incoming. Trust me." The SEALs hesitated but obeyed, and when enemy fire swept the spot they had just left, they realized the mysterious voice saw more than their eyes ever could, and their trust deepened. Nadia checked her notebook spread beside her, hand-drawn maps illuminated by a small red light, arrows and numbers filling the pages. She had prepared for this canyon specifically, prepared angles nobody else imagined. She whispered to herself as if speaking to her lost partner. "See, I told you we were not finished." And she fired again, the Raven roaring softly. Another threat. Falling silent hours bled into minutes, time folding as adrenaline carried the SEALs forward, guided by a ghost they could not see, their bodies battered, their nerves raw. But step by step the trap loosened, enemy numbers falling, confidence rising. They realized something impossible was happening. A single unseen protector was shifting the outcome of the battle. One person turning the tide from certain death to fragile hope. And in the heart of the mountains, hidden among shadows, Nadia kept firing, each shot carving a path for men she had never met. Men who believed they were alone until the night proved otherwise. Men who would leave the canyon alive if her strength lasted. Her voice quiet but unshaken, her rifle steady though her body trembled. She had become the ghost on the perimeter, and nothing could stop her now. The night was still alive with fire, the canyon shaking with echoes of rifles and cries. Yet for the SEALs something had changed. What was once a coffin of stone now began to look like a battlefield they might survive. They crawled through shadows, every step guided by the mysterious voice, every move covered by shots that came from nowhere. And with each fallen enemy, their courage grew. The leader of the team raised his hand, signaling silence. His men froze, listening to the crackle of static. Then the voice returned, steady and calm. "Enemy flanking from your left ridge. Hold position, then move at my mark." The SEALs obeyed without question. And seconds later, bullets tore into the place they would have stepped into. Their trust deepened. They no longer wondered if the voice was real. They knew someone unseen had chosen to fight for them. Nadia lay against the cold ground, her body aching but her mind sharp. The Raven rifle steady on its mount, her eyes locked through the scope. Her instruments whispering wind changes, pressure drops, angles shifting with every breath of the mountain air. She worked faster than thought, adjusting with hands trained by endless repetition. She had no officer beside her, no spotter to call ranges, only her own maps, her own notes, her own memory. And it was enough. She spotted movement near the canyon mouth, figures carrying heavy weapons, enemy reinforcements closing in. She marked the distance, adjusted the dial, and fired. One fell, then another, the rest Scattered in panic, the SEALs below saw only shapes collapsing in the dark, and though they could not see the hand behind it, they knew the battle had shifted in their favor, for the enemy confusion spread like fire in dry grass. Their commanders shouted. Their soldiers searched the ridges, desperate to locate the phantom that was cutting them down, but every attempt to trace the shots failed. The distance was too great, the angles impossible. No flash betrayed her. No sound gave her away. It was as if the mountain itself had turned against them. The young soldier in the team whispered again, "This is not luck. This is someone who sees everything." His words gave his brothers a strange comfort, because believing in a guardian was easier than believing in chance. And when men believe, they fight harder, they endure longer, and hope becomes as strong as steel. Nadia shifted her body with a wince, pain burning along her injured back, yet she refused to stop. Her eyes found the mortar team setting up behind rocks. She whispered to herself, "Not this time," and her rifle answered. The mortar never fired. The SEALs never knew how close death had crawled, but their path cleared once more, and the canyon's grip loosened. The team leader pressed his mic, his voice low. "We owe you our lives. Who are you?" Again the reply came without name. "Move east 30 meters, stop at the fallen tree, wait for 30 seconds, then advance, trust the path." The SEALs did not hesitate. They followed, and when another wave of fire slammed into the ground, they had left. They knew the unseen protector was always one step ahead at the base camp far away. Officers still believed the team lost. Reports marked them as out of contact, assumed compromised. Yet in truth, they were crawling back into life, saved by a sniper who did not exist on paper, a ghost who carried maps nobody believed in, who used a weapon everyone thought destroyed, who acted without permission, because permission had no time to arrive. The canyon stretched longer, the cliffs higher, but the pressure on the SEALs eased with every shot. Nadia covered them like a shadow. Every enemy who raised his weapon fell before he could fire. Every ambush line broken before it closed. She was not only saving them, she was rewriting the balance, turning defeat into survival, turning despair into resistance. Enemy commanders grew desperate, ordering reckless charges down the slopes. But each charge ended the same: bodies falling, confusion spreading, whispers of an invisible sniper spreading through their ranks. Fear clawed at their hearts, because they could not fight what they could not see. And fear is a weapon sharper than any blade. The SEALs moved with greater confidence, crawling into better cover, returning fire with precision. Their eyes no longer dull with hopelessness, but alive with belief. They whispered to one another, "We are not alone. Someone is out there, someone who refuses to let us fall." The canyon still roared, but inside their hearts, a new strength had been born. Nadia breathed deeply, sweat dripping down her forehead. She thought of her lost partner, thought of the promise she had carved into the casing around her neck, never forgotten, and she whispered softly, "This is for you," then pulled the trigger again. The raven barked, another enemy down, another step won. Another life saved by dawn. The battle was not finished, but it had shifted. What was once certain death had become a fight with a chance. The SEALs were still trapped yet alive, their enemy still strong yet shaken, and behind every heartbeat of hope was a lone figure lying on a ridge miles away, unseen, unheard, yet changing everything. And though the SEALs could not see her face or know her name, they knew the truth in their bones. The war itself was turning because of her. The canyon grew quiet with the rising sun. Smoke drifted across the rocks. The bodies of fallen enemies lay scattered, and the SEALs moved slowly toward higher ground, their eyes tired but alive. They could hardly believe it. Hours earlier they had been certain of death. Now they stood breathing in the morning air, still trapped but no longer broken, because someone unseen had given them a chance. Someone had shifted the war with hands they could not see. The team leader crouched near a boulder, pressing his mic once more, his voice raw. "Whoever you are, we will not forget this." But the channel only returned silence. The calm voice was gone. No reply, no explanation. Only the sound of their own breathing and the distant echo of mountains. The SEALs exchanged looks, confusion and gratitude mixing. They had been saved by a shadow, and the shadow had vanished without a trace far away on her ridge. Nadia packed her rifle with shaking hands, every muscle screaming, her back on fire with pain, yet her eyes clear. She wiped the scope gently, placed her notebook back into her pack, and touched the small casing on her necklace. Whispering softly, promise kept. She knew she could not linger. Soon others would investigate, questions would be asked, orders would be given. And if she stayed, her secret would be exposed. So she disappeared as quietly as she had come, leaving no sign but the memory of impossible shots across the night. At base camp hours later, whispers spread quickly. The SEALs had returned, alive when no one expected them to survive. Their reports filled with stories of an unseen sniper, shots from distances no human should have reached, voices on radios that came from nowhere. The officers scoffed at first, calling it stress and confusion. But the details were too clear, too precise. Every soldier described the same voice, the same impossible cover, and when their gear was checked, the bullet impacts on recovered enemy rifles showed marks unlike any standard ammunition, advanced, unique. Exact military intelligence began an inquiry. They searched records, examined weapons, tested trajectories, and slowly the evidence pointed in one direction. A name hidden in classified files. Echo 7, Nadia Volkova, once known for extreme distance kills, once feared and respected, but long since removed from the field, her file marked reassigned. Her skills forgotten by most, but the bullet paths, the precision, the patterns, all of it whispered her name again when officers confronted her. Nadia sat at her desk with calm eyes, screens glowing around her. She did not flinch. She did not break. She answered softly, I was here the whole time. My logs will show it. And indeed her logs showed constant presence, because she had learned to mask her absence, learned to cover her trail. But deeper investigation revealed security footage of a maintenance truck leaving the depot, revealed maps filled with calculations too perfect to ignore, revealed ammunition that matched only her weapon. The Raven, long thought destroyed, but clearly alive, she was brought before the base commander. Questions fired like bullets. Why did you disobey? Why did you act without orders? Nadia looked straight ahead, her voice steady. Because they would have died. Because time does not wait for permission. Because I could see what no one else saw. Silence filled the room. Officers exchanged looks, some angry, some thoughtful. The commander leaned forward. You broke every rule, but you saved every life. Explain yourself. Nadia touched the casing on her chain, whispered words almost too quiet. I promised never to stand by while others fall.